Hey, baby, we're going to be here all day.
This is what's great about sports. This is what the greatest thing about sports is.
This is Spittin' Facts with Zack.
I will not tolerate players that think it's about them when it's about the team. To all the non-believers. To all the non-believers.
The sports podcast about the important issues in New York and national sports.
We are not a charity. We cannot give them the game. And still.
No hot takes, just facts.
So get your facts straight.
Now, here's Zack.
Can't wait.
That's right, I am Zack, and welcome to the first edition of Spittin' Facts with Zack, the sports podcast about New York and national sports that I hope can limit the outrageous opinions and recency bias and all that stuff that comes into normal sports talk radio that usually forgets about anything that happened that wasn't yesterday or the week before. And I hope to just give you, facts and opinion that isn't unbelievably biased and trying to just give you that one thing that everyone will stick to. But before you care about anything that I have to say, you probably have to know a little bit about me to even care about what I have to say. It's kind of like that first week of school when it's like syllabus week and you have to go through all the introductions just so you know what's going on, or like you're starting a new class and you have to play Two Truths and a Lie or 7-Up, all those just basic little games so you know who you're talking to, who the people in your class are. You don't want to do it, but you kind of got to do it just so you know who you were listening to or what class, or who is in your class. Well, first of all, the one thing that you do know so far is that my name is Zack. But unfortunately, I have to say that I was born into being a Dallas Cowboys fan. It wasn't my fault. It wasn't my choice. My dad made me do it. He's been a fan of the Cowboys since Thanksgiving Day in 1966, I believe, when he saw Bullet Bob Hayes, former fastest man in the world. Wanted to watch him play, and he got hooked ever since. He had season tickets from 1989 up until they got rid of the old Texas Stadium in 2008. So, unfortunately, I was born into it, and I'm not a fraud, so I can't hop off the bandwagon, even though I'm miserable, I'm embarrassed. I hate wearing Dallas Cowboys apparel because why would anyone want to be a part of that team? Everything about, I'm not even going to continue talking about it because I'm just going to go on a rant that'll go through this whole podcast. My second team is the New York Mets. Well, why am I a fan of the New York Mets and the Dallas Cowboys? Well, like I said, I wasn't a choice for me to be a Cowboys fan. My dad also hated baseball his whole life. So because he was my dad, I said, well, my dad hates baseball, so I automatically hate baseball because I'm not allowed to have any sort of my own opinion when I'm that young, because what do I know? But as time went on, even all through high school, didn't know literally anything about baseball until, honestly, as late as 2014, 2015, and my friends started telling me that you're an idiot. Why would you not want to watch baseball? It's the best sport. I'm probably the only person in the world that never played Little League baseball at any point. I've never played organized baseball. As I'm trying to make you want to care what I have to say about baseball, I'm basically telling you I didn't know anything about baseball my whole life. But once 2015 rolled around, I was getting a lot of pressure from friends that I need to start following baseball. I was delivering pizzas, so all I'm doing is driving around and listening to sports radio all day. So it kind of became a thing where I had to be focused on baseball because middle of the summer, that's all they're going to be talking about. So I started following the Yankees and the Mets. And this was right around the time when A-Rod was coming back and he was a villain and the Mets were piddling around 500 and they were a mess. And I didn't really know where I wanted to go. But then I said, I'm already a Cowboys fan. I can't be a Yankees fan either. I mean, and you listen to all the Yankee fans call up, and it's just disgusting. It makes you throw up sometimes the way that Yankees fans have expectations about their team. So the Wilmer Flores fiasco, that series against the Padres where they blew that horrible game in the rain delay in the ninth inning. One of my friends was stuck at that game with a bunch of campers when he was a camp counselor. I just feel awful for him. The Wilmer Flores game happens. He thinks he's traded to Milwaukee for Carlos Gomez. Terry Collins has no idea what's going on. It's such a typical Mets situation. He's literally crying on the field. And then all of a sudden, Carlos Gomez, I believe, did not pass his physical. The trade falls through. Wilmer Flores is still on the team. A couple days later, they trade for Yoenis Cespedes. And game one of that series against the Nationals, Wilmer Flores night happens. He has the credible diving stops, both RBIs, and we all know what happened in extra innings. Home run to deep left center field to walk off and beat the Nationals, which basically propelled them on that run to the 2015 World Series. And then ever since that series, that winning streak that started, put the Marlins after that, went like an eight or so game winning streak. I was hooked. So, but now I'm stuck, I guess I could say. I'm not ashamed of it, but I'm ashamed of being a Cowboys fan. I'm not ashamed of being a Mets fan, but nevertheless, I'm not a fraud. So I'm a Mets fan now, and I will never not be a Mets fan, and that's the way it is. And I'll just get to my third fandom is I am a Boston Celtics fan. Okay, yeah, so he's a Celtics and he's a Cowboys fan. I'm a Celtics fan only for no other reason because my dad was a bandwagon Celtics fan in the 80s, and he had a lot of Celtics memorabilia. And around 2008, yes, coincidentally, the year that they won the championship, was like, I should probably follow basketball. Other people in my school are pumped about basketball. I want to be pumped about basketball. So I was like, I might as well be a Celtics fan. I had no idea they just acquired Kevin Garnett and Ray Allen. Didn't even know who they were. So you can't accuse me of jumping on the bandwagon. I just started watching them, and they went 66-16, and obviously ended up winning the NBA Finals in 6 games over the Los Angeles Lakers, and that's it. Wasn't going to not be a fan of them anymore. Funny story about that is because I was just an idiot in 7th grade, when they were absolutely blowing the doors off the Lakers in Game 6 on their way to a championship, I said, oh, well, the game's over. I might as well turn off the TV and go to sleep. Yeah, so I missed the entire 4th quarter. Never actually watched my team win a championship, never watched Kevin Garnett say anything as possible. So when it really comes down to it, I've never seen my team win a championship in my lifetime in person. I've watched all 5 Super Bowls in entirety of the Dallas Cowboys, but I wasn't exactly around to see those championships, even though I was alive in 1995. I kind of was pooping in diapers at that time, so I guess that doesn't really count. All right, but enough about me. You know my background. You know what teams I'm a fan of. I'm going to get into what I want to talk about for this first episode, which is worse, the state of New York sports or the officiating in the NFL. They are both competing every day, every game, to see who is worse, what is worse. And I'm going to start with the NFL officiating because football is my true passion. I consider myself an absolute historian of the game. I can talk football history with, I would say, almost anyone. It's something that's really important to me, and NFL officiating is ruining the game. It's truly ruining the game. But at the same time, does the NFL really care? They're making money hand over foot, regardless of what continuous errors they make on the field when officiating and rule changes, or off the field with horrendous management of their players, the way that discipline is handed out amongst players and public statements and it's unbelievable. But what I really want to focus on is officiating. Now, I understand that nobody is going to feel bad for the Patriots about getting bad calls, even though I think the narrative about the Patriots always getting calls is a completely ridiculous narrative as well, because everyone just seems to focus on when the Patriots get all the calls. Even though if you really look at it non-biasedly, every team, every week, is constantly benefiting from horrendous calls. But every week, every game, there's just horrendous calls. I'll start with the one of the many from last week is when Travis Kelce catches that pass, and he fumbles the ball, and it's picked up by Stephon Gilmore and started running down the sideline. This Patriots team has gotten nothing going offensively in any way. The officials blow the play dead. This particular referee error is something that I will give you my first...
You know what really grinds my gears?
...of my podcast, because that legitimately grinds my gears so much. If you are not 1,000% sure that the player was either down, the ball was incomplete, any stuff like that, it wasn't a fumble, you cannot blow the play dead. It happens all the time. It happened to the Saints again earlier in the year, but it happens all the time. It happened to the Bucs on a play against the Titans. You can always go back and review it and just say that he was down, or that it was incomplete, or that it wasn't a fumble, but you can't go back and we continue the play when the guy's running down the field. So Stephon Gilmore picks it up, and we said he was down. So now we can't go back and give him the benefit of the return, and it's just, that's the mistake that they made, so we have to live with it. That's all we have to do. There's nothing we can do about it. It's unbelievable. It happens all the time. I don't know if it's like a safety issue, just the referees being so stupid Just don't blow the play dead unless you're sure it's a fumble. It happens all the time. You can't go back and make up for it. Okay, so then that happens. They use their challenge on that. They win the challenge. Earlier, they lost the challenge. They're trying to get a spot or challenge a spot for the first down. I forget who the player was on Kansas City. Makes the catch, but he's bobbling it as he makes the catch. Where did he gain possession for forward progress? Now, you could argue whether or not it was a first down, but they spotted the ball at the 40-yard line. He at absolute maximum, he gets the ball at the 39. They review it. Everyone in the world can see that the ball never hit no part of the ball or his body ever even approaches 40-yard line when they put the ball there. It's mind-boggling how stuff like that happens. And then the biggest one by far is the N'Keal Harry play where he clearly scores. Now, something that I've always been a proponent of saying is, well, people are saying how referees miss all these calls. You're getting the benefit of seeing it while you're on the couch on your television. You are getting a way better view of the referees watching this in real time on the field because they only get one shot in real time and on field. So I'll give the referees a benefit of the doubt there. But here's the thing: he goes in and scores this touchdown that would have presumably cut the game to 3 points. All of a sudden, it's a question whether or not he stepped out of bounds. You know that the Patriots have no more challenges left. Once it's just a slight question whether or not that he stepped out of bounds or not, just call it a touchdown because then it's automatically reviewed. All scoring plays are automatically reviewed. So if you just call it a touchdown, then you're giving yourself the ability to review it and get the call right because they already used all their challenges on your ridiculous calls earlier in the game. So that's the thing that I don't think anyone was talking about. The referees have to know the situation. Just make it a play in which you're able to review the play. If it's a question, just give them the touchdown so you can review it. And it really wasn't even close. Obviously, the fallacy of the predetermined outcome, you never know what's going to happen the rest of the game after that. So you can't say, well, they would have been in a position to kick 3 after that instead of having to go and for the tie when they were able to not score later on that drive at the end of the game. They also, before Brady ran for it and was pumped to get that call on, to get that on 4th down when he ran for the first down, the play before that was egregious pass interference. But they were out of challenges, so you couldn't review it. The fact that the NFL lacks so much transparency in what they're doing with the officiating, they bring in this rule to review pass interference in a complete overreaction to the Saints and Rams game last year. We all know that. Okay, my quick retort is instead of putting in this whole rule, how about we just get the damn egregious calls right? Why do we have to keep getting these such easy calls wrong, and we wouldn't have to have these ridiculous rules? But pass interference, I'll say pretty much the whole season up until the past couple weeks has been they're just not even reviewing it or reversing it, basically saying, yeah, we're not, to basically just to prove a point. Referees are, we're going to prove a point. NFL's going to prove a point. We're not reversing these calls. Pretty much at it was almost at a 90% clip, something like that. All of a sudden, the past couple of weeks, they're starting to reverse it. And then they're talking to head of officiating, and they're like, oh, no, we're just calling it the same way that we all have all year. No, you're not. That's a lie. I mean, what is the lack of transparency? Just say, oh, yeah, we're enforcing it a little bit more. We're going to be more lenient. We're going to probably be reversing more of these. It makes absolutely no sense to do that. It's just tell us what's going on. And this relates to something I'll talk about in baseball in a bit. But it's the officiating. It's hurting the game so much. But at the same time, is it really hurting the game? I just saw some report that in the fall ratings period, 46 out of the top 50 programs on television in total were NFL football games. So, I mean, that's unbelievable. There's the only 4 things that were not NFL football games that got better, that were in the top 50 ratings in the fall period, are games 6 and 7 of the World Series, LSU, Alabama, and the Thanksgiving Day parade, believe it or not, the one non-sporting event. So I guess the NFL doesn't care. People are going to keep watching, so I guess that's all they care about. I mean, it's going to catch up to them eventually. I'm telling you, it's going to catch up to them eventually. The product is going to get so bad. And that's just one of several reasons I've I'll talk about these another time. But I'm just going to touch on one more thing about officiating before I move on. On every play, there needs to be, on every play, on the offensive side of the ball, 7 players must be lined up on the line of scrimmage, while 4 players are off the line of scrimmage. If there's more players on or off the line of scrimmage, it's an illegal formation. You got to have 7 on, 4 off. I want you, the next time you're watching a football game, to actually look and count who is on and who is off the line of scrimmage. It has become a point where it's not even remotely enforced properly. Particularly, the right tackles in almost all general formations are a full yard, and they're off the line of scrimmage with their back foot almost 2 yards off the line of scrimmage. But that player is considered on the line of scrimmage. It's to give a complete advantage to the pass blocking and the players and the offensive linemen blocking. And at the same time, you'll have a receiver next to him that is quote-unquote off the line of scrimmage that is completely even, if not even farther up than the player that is technically on the line of scrimmage. And what my point that I'm trying to make about it is and then you'll randomly see every once in a while, like a couple weeks ago, the Rams got a touchdown taken away against the Bears for illegal formation because someone wasn't covered up. It happens every play. You can't just arbitrarily throw an illegal formation unless you're actually going to enforce it properly. It's every play. Almost every play, no one is actually lined up properly. If you actually want to enforce the rule, you got to have 7 guys on and 4 guys off. But whatever, I digress. I'm probably an official at heart, so this stuff bothers me a lot. So what was the theme of this show? It was, what is worse, NFL officiating or the state of New York sports? Well, let's talk about the New York sports right now, because it's pretty bad, unless, well, the Yankees actually want to have something to say about that. They want to resurrect New York sports entirely by themselves. And what they did yesterday was a pretty good job at that, signing Gerrit Cole to a 9-year, $324 million deal. So the Yankees are trying to single-handedly drag New York out of the dregs of the dregs of sports in this country, to continue to fit the narrative that I'm trying to make right now. What about all the other teams in New York sports? Let's talk about the football teams quickly. The Giants are such an absolute mess. As much as I'm embarrassed about the Cowboys, I love to see the Giants in a mess right now. They played the Eagles on Monday night, and the Eagles are such a mess. The whole NFC East is just an absolute disgrace. What a horrible performance that was by the Eagles, even though they were able to win the game. And Eli gets the start. We'll see if Eli's able to get another start, maybe his last home start next week at home against the Dolphins. But you got to really feel bad for Eli. He played so well in the first half, and in the second half, the Giants just make absolutely no adjustments. In the second half, the Eagles come out there playing a lot more press coverage because they know Eli wants to get rid of the ball. They know he wants to run those slants, the rollovers, the quick hitches, get the ball out in the flat, run some screens. So they're just playing press man for the most part, or a lot of cover one. And it's like they don't use Saquon Barkley in any sort of creative ways. They just put him in the backfield and have him run right up the middle or run a screen. They don't use any sort of interesting formations for him. But I got to say, even as a Cowboys fan, I was really happy for Eli, at least in the first half. That touchdown that he threw with under 40 seconds left in the first half to Slayton, who burst onto the scene with 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Pretty incredible performance by him. But when he threw this touchdown to go up 17-3 late in the half, and you could just see the emotion on Eli Manning. He was so happy to be to be back in the field making plays. His wife was there, Archie was there, Peyton was there. So I'll just let you hear the call for a second. Incoming Joe Tessitore screaming.
1 of 5 on third downs tonight. See what Eli comes up with here. Downfield, wide open, he's got him again! Manning to Slayton! Score it! My, oh my, what a rebirth we have tonight with Eli Manning. 55-yard touchdown.
So I was happy for Eli, but then in the second half, they're complete no-show. It was crazy to watch. The Eagles had no life. You let a team with no life that was on the verge of their season collapsing outscore you, what was it, 20? I guess it was 20-0 in the second half and overtime. They were able to, and Pat Shurmur, just go away, dude. Just go away. Like, your arrogance is just unbelievable, as if you've accomplished literally anything in this league. You had one good year with Case Keenum. Who cares? Like, it's like you're acting in press conferences as if you actually have stock in this league. In the beginning of the year, when Daniel Jones has his first start and win against the Bucs, he's asked on the postgame, like, did you expect this? He's like, oh, yeah. It's like, that's why we drafted him. He's pretty good, isn't he? It's like, dude. It's funny to watch, but it's got to be frustrating if you're really a Giants fan. And where do they go from here? Ian Rappaport was reporting recently that Shurmur is basically out and Dave Gettleman is not too far behind. So at least they're not going to pull a New York Jets and fire the coach, keep the general manager, have him hire a new coach, but then fire the general manager, and then get into that whole carousel. Where are they going to go for here? They got Saquon Barkley, who's already 2 years into his career, didn't have nearly as good a year this year as he did last year. I don't know if it's because he's banged up or because they just don't know how the hell to use him, and they got no other real threats. They don't have Odell Beckham anymore, but I don't know where they're going. And as far as that game last week, got a quirky stat for you. So Zack Ertz caught that game-tying touchdown and game-winning touchdown. Believe it or not, Zack Ertz is the first tight end in NFL history to catch a touchdown in the fourth quarter and overtime in the same game. I find that unbelievably hard to believe, but Stats by Stats gave me that one, and they always have the best stats. So I thought that one was really interesting. So Giants are a mess, but what about the Jets? Where are the Jets? I mean, how do you lose to an 0-7 team and a 0-11 team in the same season? I mean, that's unbelievable. Adam Gase, I feel like Pat Shurmur pisses me off more than Adam Gase, but Adam Gase is literally always totally the same, totally level. No matter what happens, like they'll lose to the Bengals, and he sounds the same as after they beat the Raiders. He sounds completely the same. That would be pretty frustrating for me if I was a Jets fan. So. Was Adam Gase the right guy? I mean, clearly he hates Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell's out bowling a 251 when he's supposed to have the flu. How can you go bowling the night before and then not play? And then not play the following game? That's unbelievable. You sat out a whole season, and you're sitting when you were out bowling the night before. I don't know if that was because Gase shut him down, or what the whole deal with that was. I know they said he was contagious, so they basically said he's not allowed near anyone except people at the bowling alley, I guess. That whole situation's crazy. A lot of signs are pointing to Le'Veon Bell being out by the end of this season, but we'll have to see with that. A couple of things within that game. Adam Gase, you got you're late in the game, you got a 3rd and 1 inside the 20, and then you roll out and pass, and it's incomplete. And then you go for it on 4th and 1 when it's 16-12. Just take the points. I don't get why I don't know if it's analytics going into the game, but why are teams so reluctant to just take the points? Just take the points. You go up 19-12. And then now you're up a touchdown. Just take the points. Instead, they run up the middle. They don't get anything. Why don't you run up the middle on 3rd down? And I don't know. That stuff bothers me. And just something else I noticed from that game. I'm not saying he's a great player by any means, but wouldn't you love to have a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick on your team? I feel like the guy's been in the league forever, because he really has. Got all these kids and this huge beard, just running around, he's just having fun. He's trying his best to win every week. And how about that play where he's scrambling down the left, kind of in between that left hash marks, gets the first down, and is he going to slide? Is he going to dive? No, he's going to lateral the ball. He's just going to lateral the ball in the middle of the field. That's the kind of stuff that I just love seeing. It's pretty funny. And the guy's just having fun out there. And then they end up winning the game on the Sam Ficken field goal, 22-21. What does it mean? They just lost to the Bengals last week. I don't know what it really means. I mean, it's always good to get a win. Sam Darnold was really happy about it. He was super, super stoked about getting the win. But now they have the Ravens on a short week, and good luck with that. I mean, but where are they going anyway? It's a big offseason for Joe Douglas, I'll say that for sure. But both New York both New York football teams it's kind of embarrassing. It's really embarrassing. The last playoff win in this town for either team was Super Bowl 46. Crazy. And the only appearance was that one and done appearance in 2016. All right. Got to talk about the New York Knicks. They, out of all the teams, are trying to win this argument about who's worse, the officiating or New York sports. The Knicks set up David Fizdale to fail from day one. Absolutely from day one. They were under this false impression that Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant or whoever other free agent were just going to walk into the door, and that just wasn't going to happen. I mean, aren't we going to learn that that's not what is going to happen with the Knicks? The only way that they're going to be able to do it is through trades and drafts at this point. So they hire Fizdale because he's the guy that all the players like, and he was friends with LeBron and Wade and Bosh down in Miami. Everyone likes him. And they brought him in to recruit and or coach up star players. And then they don't get anybody. And you suffer through that horrible season last year with 17 wins under the impression that you have hope that we're going to get either a guy like Zion and we're going to get at least one of these free agents to come and rebuild this team, and it just doesn't happen. And now they have a coach that is here basically to coddle superstars, and the biggest stars he has are Julius Randle and Marcus Morris. It was never the right fit for him once they did not get any star players. And then after 10 games, we're having this press conference saying, well, this is not where we expected the team to be, but this roster's terrible. Steve Mills, this roster is terrible. You've been here for such a long time. People always point it to James Dolan. I know that Steve Mills had the time where he wasn't in charge, but for the most part, he's been here for 20 years. It's been nothing but losing. And the way that they handled the firing, they have him coach practice, talk to the media, and discuss game changes that he's going to be making for the game against the Pacers, and then they fire him. I mean, that's just unbelievable. And then to make it even more, well, I don't know why I say it's unbelievable. It's completely believable with this team. But then, okay, when did this happen? I mean, what day did this firing happen? It was, Friday? Last Friday? They still have not addressed it formally in a press conference. They released a really short statement. Fizdale released a very nice statement, very complimentary about the team. They had no press conference to discuss the firing of their coach. They just hired this guy less than 2 years ago saying he's going to change the culture of the team and he's the right guy. And now you fire him. You don't even talk about it. It's unbelievable. He was 20. I feel bad for him. He was 21 and 83. It's the worst winning percentage out of any coach for the Knicks in their history, which is hard to believe that anyone could even be worse than they were previously. But he was set up to fail. He'll get another job. All these other coaches around the league know the position he was put in. Steve Kerr and Greg Popovich were talking about it and how it was such a horrible situation. But last year, like I was saying, at least you had some hope, even though it was false hope. Where's the hope now? Where is this team going? Maybe trade Marcus Morris for a first-round pick. But for the most part, where are they going? God, I mean, as a Celtics fan, it does this. As a proud Celtics fan, I really do enjoy watching this. But at the same time, it's like I do really enjoy New York sports, and it's like all I'm hearing about is just horrible teams, particularly the Knicks. I'll just quickly touch on the Nets. As a Celtics fan, I will say that good luck with Kyrie Irving, because I don't care if Kemba Walker's maybe not technically a better player than Kyrie Irving. Kyrie Irving is not a player that I want to have in my locker room. He won that one championship. Obviously, we all know the shot that he hit, which, on a side note, I believe one of the most overrated shots in NBA history. Okay, not a hot take, just an opinion. He's been hurt. He's been talking he recently said ridiculous statement after they played the Celtics where he's just like, this basketball is more important things in life than basketball. It's like, yeah, I know. So, like, the whole thing about them mocking you, it's within the context of sports. That's what sports is when you leave the team to go to another quote-unquote rival team, you're going to hear about it because it's sports. But no one's saying that that's more important than life, you idiot. Okay? Like, God, I'm so happy I don't have to hear this guy talk for my team anymore. Unbelievably annoying. But they'll see. I mean, this team might be in shambles by the time Durant's even healthy because of what Kyrie Irving does. They're playing better without him for the most part. Who knows when he's going to come back from this injury, but we'll see. I mean, that's technically the best team that I've mentioned so far in New York sports. And I will now go to my New York Mets. So, all know that the story coming out of the Mets is the Wilpons giving up majority ownership to Steve Cohen, the hedge fund guy, worth roughly $13.6 billion. And when you hear that, it's like, oh my God, the Wilpons are gone and we're actually going to be able to spend money. Oh my God, we're going to outbid the Yankees. But what exactly is going on with this deal? Is it really a 5-year process? Are the Wilpons not going to relinquish any control or financial restraints for 5 years? Now, if I'm investing into this, in this team, that I'm going to want to have control over it before 5 years. But I don't know, because I'll say a couple of things. One thing, I was reading an article on CNN. Steve Cohen said that he's always had true love for the Mets and been passionate about owning the team. Is something he really wanted to do. But he wanted to make it clear that his true passion is investing. So how much money is he willing to spend? Because he'll probably make money on this regardless of how well the team does. Or does he just want to spend all this money to make the team into a powerhouse and really cash in on his investment, turn around the Mets? I don't know. But right now, in this offseason, Brodie Van Wagenen saying that we're operating as normal. So what is normal? Nothing? Doing absolutely nothing. I mean, why can't we sign a reliever? Why do we have to trade our best prospect in Gerrit Cole and then bring back one of the worst contracts in baseball to get back a closer in Edwin Diaz, who, as well as he did for the Mariners, I don't need to talk about what he did for the Mets last year. However, I really do think that he's going to have a better season this year. I think Carlos Beltran is going to help him adjust to New York better. The pressure was a lot for him last year. But for the most part, can't we just sign people and not rely on ridiculous trade? Like, can Steve Cohen please just start putting money into this team, please? I don't really know what's going to happen. It's right there for us. Even though we really shouldn't have been in win now mode, we should have hired Heinblum, be the general manager, over Brodie Van Wagenen, because he wanted to do the full rebuild plan and he knows how to put together teams under a budget. But we want to be this win now team. But we have Jacob deGrom and Noah Syndergaard and Jeff McNeil and Pete Alonso. What are we going to do with it? So if we're win now, then let's just be win now. We were talking about acquiring Starling Marte. He played a lot of center field for the Pirates, but we just traded for Jake Marisnick, who's also playing center field. So if we get Starling Marte, what are we going to have to give up? Are we going to give up Brandon Nimmo? We can't give up Brandon Nimmo. He runs to first base when he gets a walk. Can't give that up. Or J.D. Davis. He was actually the best thing that Brodie Van Wagenen did all last year. Now we're going to give him up because he was playing a lot of left field and maybe put Marte in left and keep Marisnick in center or flip-flop. I don't know what we're going to do. I wish we could just sign people and not have to trade people to acquire more talent. But that's pretty much the way it is. But like I said, the Yankees are the one trying to flip the narrative on New York sports being bad. Okay, so I just went over what's worse, NFL officiating or the state of New York sports. What's my answer? NFL officiating. That will always be my answer. There's nothing worse. That's my answer. I don't know what your answer is. If you wanted me to touch on hockey, I'm sorry that's not going to happen because I don't want to be that guy that talks about something that they don't know what they're talking about. All I know is the Islanders are playing pretty well, and the Devils fired their coach, and the Rangers were rebuilding. That's all I can tell you about hockey. So I talked about that, and now I'm going to go into what I like to call part 2 of this program.
I forgot to tell you there's a part 2 to your gift.
Part 2? Part 2, part 2, part 2, part...
Please don't do that.
Part 2. I did not tell you what part 2 is going to be because I didn't know that Gerrit Cole was going to sign a 9-year, $324 million deal at around midnight last night. I find this incredibly interesting. The Yankees clearly thought this was their top guy, and there's just no way we're going to get outbid for him. The Angels were interested, the Dodgers were interested, but Brian Cashman said, I'm not going to be outbid for him, and what most reports are saying is the extra year from 8 to 9 years It really put him over the top and gets him the largest deal for any pitcher in MLB history. The record that he broke was set 2 days ago by Steven Strasburg, who signed the 7-year, $245 million deal. So now he gets the 9 years, $324, which is $36 million per year. Unbelievable. A couple of things on this. The one that everyone's been talking about is, well, pitching, is that really the problem for the Yankees? Everyone was complaining about the starting rotation, but if you really go back and watch, the issue for them is that they're so analytically driven that they just refuse to put the ball in play. I'm sorry, that is clearly what their issue was last year, but their analytics people are going to argue that that's the way that works. How does it work when you got Edwin Encarnacion swinging for the fences on 0-2 every time when he hasn't had a hit in forever? Just put the ball in play. That's why they didn't succeed last year in the playoffs. Didi swinging for the fences, Encarnacion swinging for the fences, Sanchez swinging for the fences. It doesn't have to be a home run every time. I think analytics works in the regular season, but it does not work in the postseason. I think the Nationals proved that last year. Adam Eaton putting the ball in play. Man on first with no outs, I'm going to bunt him over to second base. Because that's what you have to do in the postseason. So with that analytical part of their team, their whole thing was that we're going to have our starting pitchers go 5 to 6, maybe 7 innings, and then we're going to go to our bullpen every night. But if you sign a guy like Gerrit Cole to that kind of deal, it's either going to be one of two things. Are they going to just scrap that mentality when he's pitching and say, we don't care, and we're just going to have Gerrit Cole go until he can't go anymore, 110, 120 pitches? That's what they should do. Or are they actually going to have a situation where he's pitched 6 innings and he's faced the minimum, exactly what happened to Tanaka in Game 1 of the ALCS last year, and say, well, he can't go a third time through the order because that's what the analytics tell us. I would hope that, I would think that would not be the case. There's no way that can be the case. They have to be going away from that mold at this point and just say, we're going to give you the ball and see where that takes us. It's crazy. I mean, they're clearly prohibitive favorites, but they got to do something on offensively. I mean, we don't know what you're going to get from Stanton. Is it going to be Andujar or Urshela playing third? We don't know. If they don't go away from we refuse to put the ball in play and just hit home runs mentality, I don't necessarily think that they're just automatically going to win it all. I'm not really sure. So he signs the deals, 9 years, $324 million. He can opt out in 5 years. But he's also got a full no-trade clause in play. So he's their guy now. That's it. He's their guy for pretty much the next decade. Pretty unbelievable. And I just wanted to touch on one last thing as the winter meetings are going on and everyone's making their decisions about their team and exactly where they're going to be going and signing this offseason is what kind of baseballs are going to be used in baseball next year? Does anyone know? Because no one does know. No one knows. You had these clearly, whatever you want to call juice, quote-unquote juice balls, was so obvious in the regular season of baseball last year that these balls were flying out of the park at a rate never before seen. You have players like Brett Gardner having 20-plus home runs. Like, what? I mean, the home runs flying out of the park. And then in the postseason, it was widely reported that just like that, all of a sudden now they switched to the quote-unquote old baseballs, and the balls were not flying. The balls were not flying out of the park at nearly the same rate that they were previously. How can you possibly justify, without telling anyone, we're just going to change the baseballs right before we go into the postseason? And Rob Manfred wants to act like he has no idea what's going on. You own a portion of the company that makes the baseballs, and he's like, well, we're going to have our scientists take a look at the balls and see what's happening. And remember that all these baseballs are handmade, so some baseballs are different than others. So every baseball this year was different than every baseball previously. It's just absolutely ridiculous. They're treating us as idiots. And to think that a league could just change baseballs like that. If I'm the Twins, my entire team was based off hitting home runs, and then we get to the playoffs, and the ball is not flying out of the park like it did previously. My whole game's based on home runs, and now all of a sudden I'm hitting fly balls. The balls are staying in, and I get swept by the Yankees. I'd be chapped if I'm a Twins fan, and it's just frustrating as a baseball fan. An anonymous GM had said a couple months back, can someone tell us what baseballs we'll be using next year so I know how to build my team? I mean, think about it. Am I gonna have this guy that only hit had a big home run season last year, and that was his first, like, he really jumped up in slugging percentage last year. He was hitting the ball really hard last year, but I'm hearing, we're not going to use the same balls as last year, so maybe I'm not going to be as inclined to give that guy a certain contract. But we don't even know what balls we're going to be used. How are we supposed to construct a team when we don't even know what type of equipment is going to be used in the game? It's like going into an NBA season and saying, I don't know what the width of the rim is going to be next year. Or last season, if right before the postseason started last year, we just made the diameter of the rim like half an inch shorter, but didn't tell anybody. Like, it's really what it's like. It's crazy. It's like what if the NFL just in the middle of the season just changed how they're gonna officiate pass interference? Oh wait, they did do that. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, got a lot more interesting stuff going on with the MLB offseason. What are the Mets going to do? What are the Yankees going to do? The Mets obviously didn't want to pay for Zack Wheeler, let him go to the Phillies, and the Yankees didn't want to pay for Didi Gregorius. I mean, he signed a 1-year, $14 million deal. That clearly means that the Yankees were ready to move on, and they'll just move Torres over to short, and they're comfortable with that. But it'll be interesting to see what they do otherwise. Those were pretty much the big topics that I wanted to discuss for the most part. We got tomorrow, we got the Jets playing the Ravens on a short week. The Giants will be playing the Dolphins at home. Still unclear about whether Eli Manning will be making potentially one final home start. Hey, and just as I'm finishing up, as you'll probably be able to tell exactly what time I was recording this, I get a notification saying that the Mets just signed Michael Wacha to a 1-year deal. This is a guy who had a 4.76 ERA in 29 games with the Cardinals last year. Guess he's going to be our 5th starter. That's what people are indicating. So I guess that's the direction that the Mets will be going in, at least as far as their pitching. It doesn't really move the needle for me. Hopefully he has a good year, but, Michael Wacha's been in this league a while, but, I don't know, doesn't really do a lot for me. But I guess we'll just continue to see what's happening as the MLB offseason really rolls along, as opposed to last offseason, which nothing happened at all. Until, think of how late these deals went down. It was kind of weird, but thankfully there's some interesting stuff going on in the MLB offseason this year. Quick NFL predictions. Cowboys got the Rams next week. I could see them winning. Just I don't know why I could see them winning, because they're a team that is just going to tease you like that. But I'll just generally say quickly is that Jason Gerrit always was, always is, and always will be the problem until he is gone. And Jerry Jones, the fish rots from the head, and you're the problem too. You acted like a freaking baby, absolute baby on the radio last week. That was embarrassing, dude. That was embarrassing. Take some ownership for this stupid team that you put out in the field with your stupid coach. He just stands there looking like he's shell-shocked. Has no idea what's going on. Completely uninspirational, and I'm tired of seeing his face, and I'm just tired of it. I'll quickly say the Patriots are not done. Stop doubting the Patriots. They're not done until I see that they're not done. So stop telling me with these hot takes that, this is it, and they're going to be one and done. You don't know, okay? I highly doubt it. But we'll see what happens. I don't think they're done. I still feel like the Cowboys are going to end up making the playoffs and be that team, and I really honestly wouldn't be shocked if they randomly beat Seattle and or San Francisco. We wouldn't be shocked if they beat Seattle or San Francisco, unfortunately. But I swear to God, that better not be enough for Jason Garrett to come back, because I just can't do it anymore. We are in a treadmill of mediocrity, and I'm tired of it. Anyway, I hope this was an interesting first episode of the show for, if anyone was actually listening to this, if I was just talking to myself for an hour in this booth, although I clearly do have fun talking to myself for an hour. I'll have a lot more topics to discuss, hopefully, in the next episode. Try to make that interesting as well. I'll try to have maybe more stats. I love stats. So maybe get some more stats next time. I was really just trying to set the table and kind of go off on officiating and going off on New York sports. So see if anything interesting happens in the NBA, see what other deals happen in baseball, and we'll see what happens in Week 15 in the NFL season. But for the most part, I enjoyed doing this. Hopefully something I can turn into something that I can turn into something with my life. But we'll see. For anyone out there, I appreciate you listening. This was been Spittin' Facts with Zach. And, oh yeah, that's right. I'm Zach. So thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to Spittin' Facts with Zach. Follow Zach on Twitter at SpittinFacts40 and continue listening on Anchor or wherever you get your podcasts.